So if the blue zones all eat a high carbohydrate diet, what's up with carbohydrates? Remember in the first session we said that carbohydrates, your starches and sugars, are only 4 calories per gram, which is about a thimbleful, while fat and oils are 9 calories per gram, more than double the calories. We said that if weight management is our main concern, fats are a bigger issue than are carbohydrates. So let's take a look at some of these low carbohydrate diets in detail. There are many of these. The two currently most popular are the paleo and ketogenic diets. The paleo diet is supposed to emulate what our ancestors ate. It's supposed to be the hunter-gatherer diet. But according to Jane Goodall and other researchers, the true paleo diet was made up of over 100 grams of fiber a day. And as you remember, fiber only comes from plants. Their diet was about 95% plant-based. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors ate meat episodically when they could get it, but predominantly were gatherers of the fruits, vegetables, and tubers, which were high in fiber. The keto or ketogenic diet is another popular form of a low-carbohydrate diet. It's popular because it does give short-term improvements in weight, blood sugar levels, and cholesterol. And Americans are all about quick results. The ketogenic diets are animal-based, consisting of high levels of animal protein and fat. The science says there are some possible long-term benefits with children with intractable epilepsy, and a few small studies point to some potential benefit for people with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, or glaucoma. However, when followed long-term, these animal-based ketogenic diets actually increase inflammation, which we'll talk more about in the next module. But just to preview, inflammation is the underlying cause of most of our chronic lifestyle-related diseases like cardiovascular disease, cancer, and diabetes. The ketogenic diet also increases insulin resistance and beta cell dysfunction, the two underlying mechanisms of type 2 diabetes. Actually, these animal-based ketogenic diets increase the risk of diabetes, cardiovascular disease, many cancers, fatty liver disease, chronic kidney disease, osteoporosis, and death from all causes. Actually, in general, the animal-based low-carb diets increase the risk of diabetes and increase the risk of death from all causes. But a plant-based low-carbohydrate diet actually lowers the risk of death from strokes and heart attacks and from all causes. The American Heart Association has condemned those low-carbohydrate diets that depend on animal proteins, stating that they actually accelerate heart disease, our number one killer, and increase the risk of death from cancer and diabetes. However, they point out that if a plant protein is substituted for the animal proteins, the damaging effects of the diet are reduced. It's interesting to me that this seems like new and contrary information to what we've been hearing from many sources. Actually, we've known this for going on 100 years, but somehow have forgotten it. Let's look at a few of the many studies from the past that show the benefits of a plant-based high-carbohydrate diet. In Montreal in the 1930s, a physician named Rabinowitz changed 50 of his patients with diabetes who he had followed for over 5 years from a low-carbohydrate to a high-carbohydrate diet. He had detailed records of their blood sugars and the amount of insulin that they had utilized over the prior 5 years. He found that with a high-carbohydrate diet, their insulin requirements rapidly reduced and they improved their lipids, their blood fats, significantly. Almost a quarter of his patients were able to discontinue their insulin altogether. He said it's necessary to change the way we think about diabetes and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates actually improve the diabetes. About the same time, Dr. Kempner opened his inpatient center at Duke University to treat patients with advanced diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, and eye disease and kidney disease resulting from these, as well as people who were morbidly obese. He put them on a rice diet. White rice, sugar, fruit juices, low fat, no animal fat, no cholesterol, and very low sodium. Not only did their diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease improve, their eye disease and kidney disease improved, and those that were massively overweight were able to lose an average of over 100 pounds while eating a high carbohydrate diet. But you might be thinking, white rice? Aren't you supposed to avoid white rice if you have diabetes? Remember what we said about the difference between managing disease and reversing disease when we talked about the clogged sink and the water running over the floor. We want to focus on the underlying cause of the disease and actually reverse it rather than just managing the water on the floor, the results of the disease, which in this case would be the high blood sugars, the clogged arteries, the failing kidneys, the impending blindness. White rice was consumed in China and Japan for over 150 years, and they had very minimal type 2 diabetes, minimal coronary artery disease, with an average cholesterol of only about 127 milligrams per deciliter, while during that time the average in the United States was 203, and the normal in the US is considered under 200. They were eating vegetables with their white rice. Then it changed. The Western diet arrived and they increased their animal consumption and the processed foods, and today the rates of type 2 diabetes in China are rising rapidly and beginning to rival those in the United States. In 1985, Dr. Neil Barnard from Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine reported a study where he ran head-to-head the American Diabetes Association low-carb diet versus his vegan low-fat diet. He reported that the high-carbohydrate vegan low-fat diet, which in this case was really a plant-based whole food diet, did much better than the low-carb animal-based protein diet in lowering the hemoglobin A1C, a marker of diabetes. Dr. Barnard also found that the low-fat vegan diet did better than the low-carb diet in lowering LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol associated with heart attacks and strokes. So the studies help confirm what we've been talking about. Like the blue zones, to get the optimal health, we want to eat further down the spectrum on the right, eating more of those high-carb plant-based whole foods, the fruits, the vegetables, the legumes, the whole grains, and less of those processed foods and animal products, which are high in those salts, sugars, and fats, and in particular, the saturated fat and cholesterol.